Good afternoon. Welcome to my newest webinar, and we are going to conquer care management sales with 5 steps to close the sale, the most important part of sales. So welcome, and I'd like to do some housekeeping before we start. This is going to be about an hour and a half. It could be about 15 minutes shorter, but the PowerPoint's probably going to take an hour. We do have in the middle a poll. And so I want you to please, because at the end, we're going to leave actually about a half an hour for questions. Write questions down. Keith and I were just talking about, you got to put energy and do the work here into care management. We're talking about, our classes and who turned in homework and how much that really reflected how well they eventually did. So, if you really, are interested in taking this, which I take it you are, you showed up, write down some questions because, Keith and I are really happy to answer them. And speaking of, well, first of all, let me tell you really quickly why I can why I can help you, Keith. I will explain next. So, as I think most of you know, I was the author of the Handbook of Geriatric Care Management with the help of many, many experts who wrote chapters in this book. So it was really a collective, and it's out in its 4th edition. Also, Care Managers Working with the Aging Family, Jones and Bartlett, which has one of the key things you need to know to do care management, and that is family systems, aging family systems, because you really can't get care for the older person unless you mobilize the family. And if you've done it before, it's the hardest thing to do to get them to get care, even though they've called you to help. And I also, in that vein, wrote a book called Mom Loves You Best with my daughter, Kelly Peterson, who works in aging at the SCAN Foundation. And that is bringing up a whole other family issue, which is siblings. Adult siblings are some of the family members who will drive you the craziest, and really, getting them to work together, at least to get care for their parent, is a great way to, get what the client needs. And so that's an important part. And lastly, I wrote the only operations manual, my geriatric care management operations manual, which has been out since 2012. And my accomplice here is Keith Manensky. He's in the background. We're doing this together. This is a team effort. Keith is the graduate level instructor in the geriatric care management program at the University of Florida. Maybe he's been your teacher. He used to be my colleague at the University of Florida, and now he's my colleague here. And he's a member of the Florida Aging Life Association, the National ALCA. He's a part of the National Certified Dementia Practitioners, and he does that, and the National Academy of Certified Care Managers. And Keith will be doing the poll and answering the questions along with me, because Keith is as much a great expert and resource in this area as I am. So what we're going to cover today, the first thing we're going to cover is the strategy of the 2-part inquiry, because what I'm going to do is go to closing sales in 2 ways that a care manager does this. And the first is over the telephone, and the second is in the one-to-one meeting. So we're going to cover the strategy of the 2-part inquiry first, what that's about, because it's a little bit confusing till I explain it. And then closing the sale through the 2-part phone inquiry. And the third part is going to be closing the sale in a one-to-one in-person marketing meeting. So we're getting to closing the sale, but through the 2 parts that a care manager does. So aging life for geriatric care managers, and I am using it in a dual sense, because there's the association, and then how many people still refer to care managers. They have 2 opportunities to close the sale, as I just said. And the first one is with the adult child, and it's usually the adult child. It could be the friend or the spouse, but the adult child usually, who calls with an inquiry over the phone. And you have an opportunity to close the sale over the phone. And the second is in a sales meeting with a third party marketing opportunity. And this might be with an elder law attorney, an assisted living director. Alka just did a whole workshop on marketing to assisted living. And so, you may be marketing to them, and we're going to talk about that. And then the concierge physician is another example. So it's an example of marketing in person to a marketing contact, and you can close the sale there in a different way than you close it over the phone. And in both cases, you need an experienced staff member, really experienced, and a prepared procedure, which we're going to go through today. I mean, you can, accept this, deviate, but you need to have your own procedure. You just don't wing it with marketing. You have a plan, and so a prepared procedure, and the ability, the most important part is you got to be able to close the sale. And so today we're going to cover both. So what is closing a sale for care managers? To care managers or aging life practitioners, it's to have the client sign a contract and to give you a deposit. It's sort of like a car salesman. Now, I'm not saying you're a car salesman, but it's the same thing. You want to get a contract, and you want to get it signed by the family member who's going to pay your bill, and you want to get a deposit. And a deposit, that goes back and forth. Some people don't take them. I highly suggest you do, because you could work for a month, and at the end of the month they wouldn't pay you. And the first month is it's the most task-worthy month in any care management case. You have to bill the most hours because you have the biggest mess that you're cleaning up. And you may not get paid for that unless you have a contract that equals what you think, a deposit that equals what you think is, going to be the largest amount. So I think you ought to have a deposit. And so that means that you close the sale if you get both of these, if you're a care manager. So the strategy of the two-part inquiry, I'm going to start with that. There's 2 calls, and in call number 1, the strategy is to be able to do a needs assessment with tactical questions with the caller. And we're going to go over what that means. But hint, hint, this is something you already know how to do because you're social workers and nurses. And then in call number 1, you have to understand the client and, importantly, and the care provider's problem. And as care managers, again, hint, hint, you already know how to do this. And in call number 2, you're going to offer a free complimentary consultation and give it. And we'll explain that. And you are going to present a mini care plan answering those problems you found in the first call. And again, you know how to do a care plan. So what I'm trying to do is demystify marketing for you and sales, and saying you already have the skills to do it. So the strategy, let's give you an example. And if you've taken my webinars before, I always do this. So I always have made up people, just like Charlotte and Charlotte's Web that's in the book, only I didn't make her up, E.B. White did. Geriatric care manager Charlotte Fix Stuff gets an inquiry call over the phone. And she gets the basic demographic information, which you always do, name, the address, ADLs, etc. But she doesn't ask for a deposit or a contract. And then she drives about an hour to her client's home, Tara Tornado, to meet Tara and her daughter, Hilda Hurricane. They're in the book too. I like these characters. And then she spends 3 hours explaining her services, doing a full geriatric assessment, because if you do a full geriatric assessment, it can take that long. And then she asked to have them sign the contract and give a deposit, and they say, oh, we're not ready to move forward. So what's happened here? Charlotte Fix Stuff's care manager has semi-fixed their problem, but came up empty-handed. What's wrong with this picture? How do you avoid traveling 2 hours in sometimes god-awful traffic And then spending 3 hours with a client and not getting the case or any, an empty purse, essentially. How do you avoid doing this? You do it with a two-part inquiry, a two-part phone inquiry. So do the inquiry over the phone. This is what I'm suggesting with a 30-minute complimentary consultation, and close the sale and ask for the contract and the deposit on the phone. Do not, and if any of you know me and you've heard me talk before, I keep saying these things, do not drive to the client's house without getting a signed contract and deposit first. And this is what I always recommend, and I'm going to go into this a little bit more. Okay, so what does it take to do a successful inquiry? First of all, it takes 2 aging life or geriatric care management areas of expertise. You have to have knowledge and experience in the field of aging life or geriatric care management. And, there are, several domains that we teach in aging life or geriatric care management. You really have to know how to handle all of them. And it's a very involved field. You have to know what I said. You've got to know family systems and family therapy. And you have to know how to deal with aging siblings in the dysfunctional family and the nearly normal family that becomes dysfunctional when their mom gets ill. I take it, know all that. But what you need beyond that is something that only a few people in ALCA have, which is a sales background. Only 3% of ALCA members have a business background. So that's the deal breaker. To do a successful inquiry and close the sale, you do need sales skills. You need to be a sales navigator as well as a care navigator. And this is the important part that I think that I'm bringing to you today. So you need a sales background to do the inquiry, to get the client to sign your contract, because sales is a process. There's a process to sales, and I'm going to give you a process to care management sales. But you need that process to get to the point of closing the sale and getting the contract and the deposit. And you need to learn that sales, like profit and a background in sales, are critical to your aging life business or your geriatric care management business. You can't go home without them. And so you really do need to learn them. And in many ways, like I hinted, you already know this. So the most important part of an inquiry is your ability to close the sale. And again, you ask for the deposit, get the contract signed, and more importantly, what this does, it adds to the bottom line of your aging life business. It is the blood flowing in to keep the body of the business going. And that means that you have to like sales, which most of us don't. And you have to like profit. Now, I'm just going to, do a fast flash about this, and I talk about it all the time if you've heard me before. Most of us are women. Women are hardwired to give things away because babies wouldn't survive. We'd throw them out the window, honestly, because they cry all night, but we don't do it. So we are hardwired to give things away first. And then secondly, everybody in this field is in the healthcare field. And we've gone into nursing or social work, say, because we want to help people. We want to help them. And, we like to give them things. We don't want to take things from them. And sales, everyone, sees it as taking things from them. Well, it is taking money. That's true. And so you have to sort of turn yourself upside down to see this because you chose to go into a business. You are not working for the county or the city or the state or any of that, a nonprofit. You're selling things and you need money to keep it all going. So you have to like profit. And profit is really important to like because it means money, which means that you have to have a background in sales because they're critical to keeping your aging life business flowing. And in order to keep on helping older people, think of it this way: you have to know how to sell your product to close. So you have a product in geriatric care management and or in aging life. It's a product just like a desk that I'm sitting at or a picture that I'm, might try to hawk to you. It's a product, only you can't see it or feel it or hear it. And that's the rub. So you're selling the invisible, as I've said in many of my blogs, but have to know how to sell the invisible. And I have given you a reading list, and there's two handouts here, and I gave you a great book called Selling the Invisible by a guy named Harry Beckwith, which is an actually, wonderful book, and I get it. There's another book that I recommended, but you are selling the invisible, which makes it even harder to sell things. But you do have the tools to do this. I'm going to keep on encouraging you that way. So you have to know your product, be able to describe the invisible product, to be able to sell it. And that takes knowing and feeling comfortable with sales. And hopefully by the end of this hour and a half, I'm going to be able to make you feel comfortable with it. So understanding and getting better at sales, getting better at it, because I didn't learn to do webinars. I was terrible at it at the beginning. And then I kept doing them, and eventually, a couple of years later, I'm fairly good. I still, I'm 74, so I still make those mistakes with technology, but being a salesperson is really intuitive to a care management business. And that's the magic that I want to bring to you. And you already have the experience to do it, because what you need is to do a needs assessment or a needs analysis, using strategic and tactical questioning to find the main problem that prompted the call. Something happened that made these people call you, made the adult child call you, and you need to get to the root of the problem. All that takes is what you already know: a needs assessment. Nurses do this all the time because, they do a functional assessment of their patient, probing them and prodding them. That's in asking questions. That's a needs assessment to find out what's the matter. Why are they feeling badly? And a social worker does it as well, because when you have a new client, you have to find out, not only the main problem, but the sub-problem. The nurse needs to know that too, but you do a needs assessment. So you already know how to do this, and that's exactly what you do in sales. So, and you also need to know how to put a mini care plan together. You don't give away the store on these two-part calls, but you do put a little mini care plan together based on their problem and a product you have that's going to fix their problem. And you already know how to do a mini care plan. And you know how to solve a problem. That's what you mainly do as care managers. We are problem solvers. So you can do this. You can do this. Um, Understanding and getting better at sales is a way to a healthy business, and I've been saying that. Most care managers are uncomfortable with the idea of profitability, and you might be out there saying, "Oh no, not me," but most of us are. We didn't start this to, maybe some of you did lately, but everybody in the very beginning, in the first, maybe 20, 30 years, wanted to help people. And they did it through a business. But profitability is great because it means the blood flowing into the body of your agency. And what is the blood flow? It's money. It is cash. And cash is king. If you've already had to make payroll, you know that. You've got to have adequate cash flow to make payroll every 2 weeks, when you only get paid usually at the end of the month or sometimes into 6 weeks. So cash is king in keeping the business going, being able to make your payroll, being able to pay your care managers, being able to get the paper that you print out in your printer, buy the printer even, and even get yourself paid. So it is important to, basically have profit. And a profitable business is a healthy business. And only healthy businesses survive and grow. And so you need this blood flow of money, and it's crucial to the care manager to embrace this, to embrace the idea of sales, even though it sounds awful. So let's talk about call number one. Call number one, it's the adult child who usually calls for the inquiry. The staff who answers the phone has to be, and I'm banging on my desk here, a high-touch experienced staff member, not the person who answers the phone that you've just hired 2 weeks ago. It can't be that person. The person who hires the phone needs to be taught immediately to move calls over to the highly experienced person, but it has to be a highly experienced person who knows how to do needs assessments and understand, use the statistics, the tactical questions to get to the problem. No untrained staff members, only experts. And this is a real flaw in geriatric care management. I have done, many competition surveys, and I've called people all over the country, and people answer me while they're driving. They tell me they're driving. They don't have any time to talk to me. And, I'm supposed to be a client. Well, you know, that is in a way, that's not a great first impression. So you need to make a great first impression by having the most learned, expert, high touch person answer the phone. At least, get on the phone in about 5 seconds. So, because all this is necessary to the second part, which is the complementary assessment, you won't be able to do the complementary part unless you get all the information in this first call from the expert who's going to take the information. And so you want to put all this into a CRM database. And if you don't know what that is, it's a customer relationship database or a marketing database. And if you don't have that, please do get one. Too many of people that I work with are still working on paper. Please don't do that. That's going to stop the blood flow into your business. You need to get a marketing database, and these are just some suggestions. There's a lot out there on the market, and a CRM database really is really important to get customers and retain customers, and there's a little chart here for you about that. And don't delay. Do not delay. Don't put them on hold. That person that you hired 2 weeks ago, can you please just put her in some other part of your agency and have a really experienced person answer the phone? Don't put people on hold because they're in a crisis. They're calling you because they're in a crisis. So you want them to be able to, feel like I'm important. They took my call right away. I'm not waiting for 15 minutes on hold. And you're going to fill out the inquiry part of your inquiry form, which should be in your client database or should be in your marketing database, an inquiry database. And you want to know what is this very experienced person needs to find out what is the main problem, why are you calling, and what prompted the call. What crisis occurred that led you to finally calling a professional. And you're going to get all that demographic information, all the background, all the ADLs, housing, address, family members, everything you have in a geriatric assessment. But the key is to close this sale is the problem. And so tactical questions. I already said you know how to do this in call number one. That very experienced person who's taking the inquiry is going to ask tactical questions and do a needs assessment by asking really strategic questions and get all the information about how it came, when did this problem start? Who's been monitoring it, who in the family, what problems, importantly, has the care provider been having? And if you've got the care provider on the phone, the family care provider, you're going to ask about that because you have to understand both the care provider's problems to do the mini care plan, and you have to understand the older client's problems. This takes empathy, so that's the very experienced staff member has to have the ability to have empathy and a background in geriatric care management. So all of that needs to be there to get to this, to uncover the customer's needs. And that's what you're really doing. You're getting to the bottom of, how you can offer something that answers their needs. So they're going to sign your contract. And so you want to ask background questions, or the very strategic experienced staff member is going to ask background questions. We are really familiar, I'm just, riffing here. Say it's dementia. We are really familiar with working with dementia clients, but can you please tell me some background of when you first noticed this diagnosis? What led you to feeling that you needed to call professional help? These are prompts to try to elicit, what was the background about all of this, so that you can get to the root of the problem and again, be able to do a mini care plan to solve the problem, to have the contract signed. And what kind of family support do you have? These are all suggestions of things you can prompt. What do you need a caregiver? And this is really important. What do you need as a caregiver if the caregiver has, the family caregiver is calling you to take care of yourself? Because the mini care plan that the care manager director is going to give in the second call needs to answer the pain of the caregiver and the pain of the client. So you need to elicit both. What are you suffering as a family member or a daughter? What is your mom suffering? And then you want to get to challenge questions. And where's your pain? And this is about pain, and it's all about pain. Just like a nurse, like a social worker, we have psychic pain, we have physical pain. And, this pain is all together here in both ways in care management. But what are some of the challenges you're facing with your mother? That brings basically, it elicits information about the client, but also about, how the care provider is challenged. I didn't go to medical school, for instance, as a care provider, and I don't necessarily know how to lift my father. That's a big challenge. um, because people come out of the hospital sicker and quicker, and they're not nurses and social work. They're not nurses and doctors out there to take care of them as children. And so what are some of the challenges you're facing in your own life? And then you come to the sandwich generation, easy way to say what those challenges are. And they're going to tell you, I can't, support my kids in getting through college and lose so much work because I have to take care of my parent. So what's the most important problem? And this is a really important part you want us to solve. What's the most important problem? Because that'll be a really important question for the care manager to answer in her mini care plan. And an urgency question: how soon are you wanting the care manager to be engaged to solve the problem? How soon do you need care? And then what you do is then, problem being key, in the second call for the complimentary consultation, you need to absolutely describe the problem really clearly, not all of the, every single problem, but the main problem that she needs, or she or he, if it's a he, needs to solve. And so you need to get the main problem, or the very experienced staff member has to, and then so that the care manager director in the second call can come up with solutions, because you're selling solutions. And that's really what care managers are doing. They're selling solutions and they're delivering solutions. They're doing both. And so what this takes overall is listening skills and prompting skills, and a whole background in geriatric care management. This is for your very experienced person, knowing how to do a needs assessment, et cetera, et cetera. And the end of the call, the very experienced staff member is going to explain the costs, and sometimes that you know, that basically qualifies the person as being somebody that's really not interested. But if they go on and they say that's fine, and then offer a complimentary consultation, which would be 30-minute consultation for free, where the big mahaf, the very important person, and entitled families, which you should be marketing to, the top 10%, only want the best. Only the best. And that would be the big mahaf, the person at the very top, the care manager director. So you're going to get a call back from the care manager director who will offer you a complimentary consultation for 30 minutes. And would you like to do that? And that's the sort of lure to the second call. And it's a good lure because, you know, they are going to, you know, really benefit by it, through it. And if they say yes, you're going to schedule this very important, the very experienced staff member is going to schedule that with the care manager director. And then you go to call number 2. So call number 2 is, this is the care manager director, and this is the owner, the top dog here. And before she makes any call to the second call, she's going to go over the complete referral and ferret out the problems, the needs assessment, and everything she needs in the information to be able to create this mini little care plan. And she's going to look on, what is the main problem, and she, in her mini care plan, is going to have to solve the caller's problem. Now, again, this is not giving the store away. You're going to do a mini care plan. This is only 30 minutes, and a lot of it's going to be them asking questions. So just a mini care plan that answers the challenges of the main problem they're having, but 2 main problems: the problem of the older person and the problem of the care provider. And this takes, if you're the care manager director, you should have these skills to be able to do this, to really zero in and create this mini care plan. So she's going to look at the information that was brought over to her by the very experienced person who took the first call. So for instance, if you have a product like moving, relocation care management, it's what it's called in the Handbook of Geriatric Care Management, move management, you're going to start out with an elevator speech. And if you don't know what elevator speeches are, it's a way to describe your business on an elevator, and you will have fully described it, and somebody will be very interested in it by the time you get to the first floor. So you're going to start out with an elevator speech. And elevator speeches always start with benefits. So you're going to start with the benefit to the, say the adult child made the first call because she thought her mother couldn't live in her home anymore. She needed to move, and it was the last straw when, the mother fell. And so she's called you, and she feels like she needs to move to assisted living. So you're going to offer your product, move management, but you're also first going to say, you're going to follow the name of your product with a benefit, and you're going to say, and this is just an example, this is the benefit, we have an all encompassing one-in-one relocation service. And that means that we will do the pre-move for you, which means, and it's the hardest part, one of the hardest parts to do, because nobody, you're losing all your memories when you leave your home. Plus, all that furniture that you have to sort through, and, the memories and the children and the stories, etc. We will do that. We will arrange the actual move. You as a care manager I would not say move boxes, but hire a move management professional, or hire a moving service, whatever. But we'll arrange all that for you, and then we'll do the post move, which is another really critical part of moving, because the older person's landed on Mars. They never lived in a hotel, say, with roommates on either side, and so they're completely discombobulated, and you have to have them adjust to the move. So that's the benefit. you're just offering, in a one sentence way, we have a full service relocation product that does this, this, and this, and we can help your mother through every stage of the move. That's a great benefit to start with, and that's a great way to start your sale. And then you're going to go through some more benefits, and you're going to say, we do our, just for ducks, we do our GCM moving assessment. If the family wishes to move, the GCM will assess the right level of care. And this is another benefit because we need to know, should your mom move to another house, or should she move to assisted living, to a SNF, really what's the right level of care. And we're professionals, so we'll assess the right level of care. And then we will assess the possible moving site which is at the right level of care. And we will then present you, we will get from you also, all of the other specific points that you feel like need to be part of the move. Wherever it is, it needs to be near her daughter. If it's assisted living, it needs to have a bingo, or more probably a lap pool these days, or gourmet meals, or gluten-free meals. We will find, assisted living near her doctor. We will find transportation to, we will find an assisted living that, takes people out to see movies. Whatever it is, the moving assessment needs to be fairly encompassing so that, you can, do all this. You're not going to say that to them. You're just going to say that we'll do this GCM assessment to find the right level of care, and then we will save you a lot because we're going to present good narrow choices for the client that has everything you need in it, and you can just take the three last, choices. We'll do all the work for you, and you can make a decision about where you want your mom to move if you like any of our choices. So, there are other benefits. and then you're going to call back, or the director is going to call back with outcomes, because that's all entitled families really ever want, a mini care plan. They don't want your advice. They don't want you understanding. Of course, you have to have that, but they only want outcomes, and you need to give them outcomes in a solutions-based mini care plan. And you're going to do that, and you can do that. So this is during the call, and during the call, you're going to sell solutions. Again, outcomes. You're going to give that elevator speech that I just talked about, using a product, and I always suggest that everyone have a menu of services and products, because your clients really want that. They they don't, lots of times they don't understand what care management is at all, but they do understand a moving product. They do understand home from the hospital if their mother's going to go in the hospital. So have products. So an elevator speech using the product you have and the service the client needs, and the benefits, and then present the mini care plan, and then present the extra benefits, because benefits is, the way you sell anything. What you don't sell through features. And I did a whole seminar and a whole webinar about that last month in March, 2 months ago, and you can see that on my YouTube channel, Geriatric Care One. But you sell through benefits, so present more benefits to the family caregiver. So you want to sell all this, and then after you've done your mini care plan and you've gone through the steps that I just recommended, you're going to close the sale. And you've done this, and then you're going to say, are you ready to take the next step? And that is, will they pay? Will they give you a deposit? And will they sign your contract and send the deposit in? And you can use PayPal. PayPal, you get the deposit right away. And you can use Adobe, and you can have a prepared contract, and Adobe is, you just send the prepared contract through Adobe. It will instantly get to them, and the contract will come back to you. So it's all done in the call. And if they've gone forward with us, you want to have your administrative assistant use Adobe, send on the service contract that you've already prepared, and request a deposit through PayPal, and it's done. Or it's not done because they didn't, but I think most of the time it's done. And what the beauty of this is, you already know how to do this. This is what I've been trying to say all along. You have these skills. You have the skills of, doing a needs assessment. You know how to zero in on a problem. You know how to ask tactical questions, and you know how to create a care plan. So now we're going to do a poll, and this is where Keith comes in the first time. So Keith.
Oh, yes. Hello, everyone. Hello, Kathy, and thank you for a very informative and interesting presentation. I did want to ask a question. I apologize. I didn't look at the polls ahead of time, and I do see that there's a few of them in here. So I'm going to click on the first one and see what happens with that.
Okay.
It's titled, "What is the most important marketing info to take to a meeting with a third party?" So let's see what happens with that. Okay, here we go. And so what we'll do is those in the audience who are listening would read the question here. What is the most important marketing info to take to a meeting with third party? And there's your choices. Select one: brochure, sell sheet on service they want, or good case study. So go ahead and it'll give us a couple, a minute or two. Yeah. Okay, we have some results coming in. Kathy, I hope that's the one you wanted me to run.
No, it is. That's it.
Is that the correct one? Okay, it was the one at the top there, and I looked at it.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. It looks like we're just about done. Okay, let me go ahead and wrap that up here, and let's see what our results are. Okay, here, let me share the results with everybody, and here you are. Here are the results. To the question, what is the most important marketing info to take to a meeting with a third party? 21% said a brochure is the most important thing. 34% said a sell sheet on services they want is the most important. Overall, 45% said a good case study is the most important thing to take to a marketing info to take to a meeting with a third party. So thank you for your participation in the poll.
Okay. Alrighty.
There we go.
So we're going to launch into hopefully some of the answers. That's sort of a preamble. It's like a pretest into what I'm going to cover now. So you can see this. I'm going to have to move it down here. Oop, where'd that go? Hey, that was interesting. Sorry, all these screens. Okay, so closing, now we're to the second close, and that's with third parties. And again, it could be an elder law attorney, assisted living director, concierge physician. It could be a financial planner. It could be a trust officer. Please, dear God, make it a trust officer because they're the very best. They have really rich clients that can afford anything and have the care forever. So, you're perfect clients. Closing with a third party is different because it's a meeting, it's a one-to-one, and you're actually your close is going to be different because you're going to not get a contract and a deposit. You're going to get a client out of this, because that's what you want. You go to these third parties because they have similar clients to you: elder law attorneys, trust departments, assisted living, upscale assisted living, concierge physicians, all traffic in the same clientele that you do, the upper 10% aging elderly. And so they do have clients that they can pass on to you if you have a good enough sales presentation, and you can establish a relationship with them. And, I really stress relationship because this is, again, something you know how to do. Sales is not alien to the skills we already have, because you're building a relationship with this professional. And don't think of it as sales meeting, think of it a relationship building meeting. So you want to schedule, this is how you do it beforehand. You have that CRM database. You always use that. Please, dear Lord, buy it. So you want to print out a letter in your CRM marketing database, which it will, asking for the meeting, and then you're going to follow up with a call, and hopefully you're going to get that meeting, and you're going to put the date, etc., in the database, and then you show up. So don't keep track of all this in your head. You're bound to blow it. You're just bound to blow it. It's just like, not keeping a calendar. Or not, I use reminders. I remind myself every 3 seconds that I have to do something in 5 days, because I have so much to do. um, and you have tons more to do because you're still practicing care management. I sold my business 12 years ago. So, you need a computer program to be able to handle this. And what you want to do is, again, establish credibility in a relationship. You want them to trust you. And that's what this meeting is about. And your social workers and nurses, and you want to be able to do that. And you've already done it. You have the skills to do it. So what do you want to bring to this meeting? You want to bring a marketing packet, and you can see a little picture of one down there. And as you know, they have pockets on either side, and you can buy them in Staples. And you can put in them a brochure from your agency. But what you want to do is have complimentary consultation in that brochure. It's really important. Even if you don't want to print the brochure again, put a little piece of paper in that's an addition until you can print them again with a complimentary consultation. Also, because your website is a brochure, put complimentary consultation on your website. And then you want to bring a sell sheet, and a sell sheet is, you should have, again, a menu of products, move management, home from the hospital, end of life, quality of life, and that applies to concierge companion, which is really what you use in assisted living, or home from the hospital. And so what you want to do is put a sell sheet for each of these products, because a brochure just covers everything. But a sell sheet, you can, break that out, and a sell sheet has the, brief features, but then it has all the benefits. And Excel sheets, they're wonderful. I learned how to do this at LiveHome when I was the Northern California director. LiveHome had a great marketing program. So, you can have all the sell sheets, but really on the top, have the one that's appropriate for the marketing contact that you're seeing. If it's an attorney, then you're going to have, written geriatric assessment to go to court where you can win. So you should, have that on the top and have the rest of them. If you're going to assisted living, you probably should have, a service for assisted living, because they do all the medical part, but you would be doing quality of life. So whatever, in my manual, I call it concierge companion, but you should have that. If you're going to hospice, end of life, because again, it's a great product for you, because you can get people into hospice, right away through all the 5 stages of death, which can take a long time, when indeed people go into hospice on an average the last month. So you can really, sell to hospice. So have a sell sheet, have an article from your local press about you. Really try, they don't have, unfortunately, the press is declining because of media, social media, but give them a reason to do a story about you, a new hire, you know, a new product that you have, a new service, whatever, and then call Alka or ask Alka. Alka has a lot of articles about Alka, and they have specific articles about, you know, how a care manager works with an elder law attorney. So if you're seeing an elder law attorney, bring that. How care managers work well with assisted living, bring that. So have an article from Alka, and then case studies. Case studies are really important. So for instance, if you are seeing the elder law attorney, you and I'll explain this in a little bit. You're going to have a geriatric assessment in there, but case studies, it's show and tell, and then your business card. So that's what you should bring. And then the elevator speech. So you're going to, again, start with an elevator speech. And an elevator speech is usually 3 parts, and I eliminated the 3rd part here. And the first part is really features. And it, you know, just in one sentence, it's really important. I want you to really practice this. Practice, you know, putting into one sentence a service description of your Alka product. What are the features of it? Not what it does for anybody, no benefits. What are the features of your product? And then the benefit, and that's the reason that most anybody wants to buy from anybody, you know, for themselves. Well, how does it benefit me? You know, how does the makeup that I want to buy benefit, you know, covering up my acne or covering up the lines I have in my face? That's why I want that product. And, you know, for an older family member who's, you know, just, you know, having difficulty with their parent, they want their pain to go away. So, you know, what are the benefits? And that's usually buying decisions are made on benefits. And then the differentiators. So give you an example, you know, with elder law attorneys, you can say, our agency does a geriatric care management in writing that's submittable in court, and will have you win. And nobody else that competes with us has that. And it's probably true. And not a lot of people, you know, written geriatric assessment is the hardest thing I think you do in geriatric care management. And again, look in the handbook of geriatric care management. Phyllis, Phyllis Brostall and I have a whole chapter in there about it. And so that positions yourself as the best agency for them to buy anything from. And then you want to go into more benefits, and I'm just using for Dux, the elder law attorney. You can also assess, the benefit is you can assess capacity. You're a health professional and they're not, the lawyer isn't. So you know how to do that. That's really important to attorneys, capacity. Do they have the ability to make these legal decisions, like giving all their money to a 23-year-old? You're really good at working with dysfunctional families. Elder law attorneys hate dysfunctional families, even though it really, you know, most of their billable hours come out of them. But they don't want to deal with the nitty-gritty of the dysfunctional family. They just want to deal with, you know, the legal problems they have. So you can come in there and do lots of work, you know, with a dysfunctional family to get them to coalesce, to be able to, you know, work with the attorney to, you know, get the best care for their older person, or, you know, divide the assets before the person dies, or whatever it is. And you can do facilitation. You know how to do facilitation of family meetings with dysfunctional families. And if it's really bad, you know how to pass it on to a mediator. You have contacts with mediators, and the whole chapter about that in the handbook of geriatric care management. What's the difference between facilitation and you're really in trouble, get a mediator? They're stuck, as Bunny Dibnah says. And then you know how to facilitate family meetings over non-titled assets. And this is really important. I had an attorney years ago who said, Kathy, do you know, these might make a lot of money for these people who are fighting over the silver. And this is really true. You know, non-titled assets, which really are just the salt and pepper shaker collection, or this, you know, this silver tea set that nobody uses anymore. They remind them of love. They remind the children of love in their, happy childhood if they had it, or what part of the happy childhood they have. So they will fight to death and spend a lot of money with the attorneys over this. And you can basically facilitate a family meeting. And if any of you have looked up, or if you haven't, look it up, Grandma's Yellow Pie Plate by the University of Minnesota gives you everything you need to know about doing this in a really healthy way. So you know how to do this. Or you can facilitate family meetings about death and dying. And the attorney is usually doing wills or preparing wills or trust, etc. And you're an expert in sibling wars, and you really need to be. And I once went to make a marketing visit to an elder law attorney, and he said to me, I explained what I did, and he said, "Oh my God." He said, "I just had to have the sheriff in." He was in Silicon Valley. These people started yelling and hitting each other in my boardroom. So you can avoid the people hitting each other in their boardroom by, you can be in the boardroom and prepare a family meeting so that that doesn't happen. And so these are other benefits that you can offer. And differentiators, and I just mentioned this very nice elder law attorney, unlike your competitors, you can do a geriatric assessment, a written one, that you can submit in court as an expert witness, which you can be in many, many states. I have been in California for many years. I don't do it anymore, in elder family disputes or guardianships. And so you can win, and this is a big differentiator. So whatever positions you in, in front of your competition, you want to put that in then. And then bring that case study. And you want to hand him the case study. And in this case, it's a geriatric assessment. And just for ducks, I have worked with attorneys who has clients that where families disagree about the best care for mom and dad. And that's usually, sometimes they're arguing about, what's the cheapest care, but you say the best care. And here's the value that I was able to provide. These are really good prompting talking points. And then you ask, do you have these type of clients? And that just elicits, do they have somebody to refer to you? And then hand them the brochure with the complimentary consultation in it, and explain the complimentary consultation, that it's 30 minutes, it's free, you'll schedule it, it will be with the main, the most important person, the care manager director. And you can pass this on to your clients who you think might be the type of clients that you would like us to serve, and encourage them to refer complimentary consultations. And that's the close really in this meeting, because you're never signing the elder law attorney up as a client, or the director of the assisted living, but you are basically getting clients from them if you can prove to them that you're the very best, and that you are trustworthy, and that you can solve the problems that they don't want to solve, which is the fighting people in their boardroom. Okay, and so close the sale, and I just said this, if you have an older or chronically ill person who needs a conservatorship or guardianship, consider our agency. Or you have a dysfunctional family fighting, consider our agency. And encourage them to deliver complimentary consultations, or tell their clients about complimentary consultations. Hand them the brochure, show them the complimentary consultation section, or the little printout you put in there. Explain it's on your website, maybe have a copy of your website, and then hand them the sell sheet. And after the sales meeting, you want to enter all that data in the marketing contacts database. Hint, hint, please get this. Send a handwritten note. Writing, they're even trying to get rid of cursive writing. Please, this means something in the world of social media. When we don't communicate in this very personal way. Write a personal thank you note to the attorney, the assisted living director, etc. And you know, if you have messy writing, make it better. And then build rapport in a natural outgrowth of these face-to-face sales meetings by continuing the relationship, because people buy from people they trust. This little sign over here. So you want them to trust you, and you want to give them more information about why they could trust you. So put them in your constant contact database to keep on sending them your newsletter. You might want to bring a copy of your newsletter in that brochure in the folder. Continue to email them, and you know, go to events that they would normally go to. There are all these events that occur, you know, all over the senior landscape of, you know, where every mixers, go to those and keep in touch with them. And you know, develop a relationship, because again, that's how sales happens. We have come to the end, and we are now going to do offers. And I do this every single time I do a webinar. The first one is for my GCM operations manual, which has been out since 2012, and it's been updated 4 times. And what are the benefits of it? Because I'm teaching you benefits. So the operations manual, you can start a new aging life or a geriatric care management business that you're restarting with pre-made care manager products, 14 of them, and I've been referring to products. And the training that you basically can give to your staff, because in the manual, each product is written out in step-by-step procedures. So it becomes a training manual as well as a way to deliver your products, because you don't have to think about training. It's not all in your head. And it offers 4 seasons gold standard care. So this, you know, these 14 products offer this, and that's part of it. And you know, obviously I just said this, so you can effortlessly onboard new employees because it's a training manual. There's training sections in each part. And then it offers you risk management, because it has tried and true procedures to deliver flawless care, which is what you have to do because it's somebody's mom, to avoid legal and malpractice litigation. And it also makes it really easy to open up a second agency, because you have you know, you have the manual. And so, you know, you can, you know, just look at what you were doing and recreate it. It's not in your head. And so the benefits of that and the features, because features are important: 14 products or services, 54 integrated forms in a separate manual. So you get 2 manuals. It's electronic, it's PDF, and you can go into the PDF and download all the forms and change anything you want, put your logo in it, etc. There are directions to edit it, and it's normally $8.99, and for this particular webinar, it's $7.99. You need to sign a contract ahead of time, because it's my intellectual property that I'm licensing to you, and I will send that to you, and you can get in touch with me at my email address. And it's only available from today till May 22nd. After you get the recording of this. So that's the first one. And then the second one, and we're done, going to go into questions, is my geriatric care management operation online class, which I just started last year. And so the online class encompasses both the operations manual and the forms manual, but it teaches you how to deliver all the 14 services. And it's taught by me online. It's done in Blackboard, which is the standard way that all online courses are delivered. The features are, it's a self-paced schedule, because I found in teaching this for the last 8 years that people, you know, just couldn't keep up with the schedule because they got really busy. And so you can start and stop and start and stop as you wish, as to your time frame. So it makes it easy. There are 14 products for Alcor GCM to market, many of which I've just mentioned: move management, home from the hospital, end of life, quality of life, and concierge companion for assisted living. And there's 20 PowerPoints, because some of the modules take a lot more time to teach to you. For instance, some from the hospital and end of life. So there's more PowerPoints in some of the modules to teach this. And then there's a marketing PowerPoint with each module to teach you how to market that product. And it also includes marketing exercises that you have to design to deliver, to be able to sell your product. There's exercises to teach you how to sell in each of the 14 products. There's a closed Facebook group in the class, a chat room like there is in any online class, a bibliography fairly encompassing, and a syllabus. CEUs are in progress from the Association of Social Welfare Boards, and you get to interact with me through the homework in the chat room. And that the benefits are you're going to receive the marketing material. You get the marketing material along with the step-by-step procedures for each of the 14 product. And you get benefits. When we were just talking about benefits, you get benefits for pre-made benefits for each target that you might want to market to. I've already done it for you. And it makes your agency more scalable so that you can open a second agency more easily, and it becomes turnkey for you. It saves you money and time because the care management staff can use the manual as a reference, and it's a training manual for onboarding people. And most importantly, if you're ill or sick, and that happens, people get deathly ill when they're care managers sometimes, and they have to be away for a couple of months, you can hand that manual over to somebody that works for you, or a lot of people have sister care management agencies. Like, for instance, in a hurricane, you have a sister care manager over on the West Coast, and you're on the East Coast. So you can share the manual so somebody else can run it for you without asking you at your sick bed, what's going on, what do I do? And you can sell the agency once you come to sell it, which everybody does, for double the price, because you have a turnkey operations manual. And we're done. You can purchase this. It's usually $9.95, but it's $8.95. You can buy it. And this is February 1st because I never changed it, but it's really through May 22nd. And for today's offer, you can either have it for the $8.95, or you can do it in 2 months. If you need to do that, it's $4.23, and you can start the class immediately. And then get the manual after the second payment. After the CEUs are approved, it's going to be 14, so it's a good deal. And you will need a signed contract to license my intellectual property, and a signed contract for taking the Blackboard class. And that's available for the next 7 days, May 15th until May 22nd. You can get in touch with me. So we will go to questions.
Well, thank you, Kathy, for quite the informative, informational presentation that you gave us here this afternoon, evening now. I do not have any questions that have been written in as of yet, which kind of surprises me given the amount of information you covered here.
Come on, everybody. You need, really, I am not the end all be all, and either is Keith. So
that's right. And I have a lot of questions, but we don't have the time tonight to get to
we
my
have,
questions.
we will grapple with any question you have and explain anything. And this was the longest webinar I've ever done, because I knew it was going to take a little bit longer. So, come up with a question. Come on. This is the idea. Remember I said Keith and I were talking about, you got to do the work to be a care manager. This is part of the work in being a part of this. You just spent a lot of time in this. Ask some questions.
Before I forget, there was a question asked about your YouTube channel and how to get to that YouTube channel so they can access this once it's posted up there.
Sure, it's been up there for a while. You can see me at all stages of my aging. Um,
Yeah, there you go.
about
Perfect.
8 years.
We
8 years
can
of that.
manage
You can
you.
see my hair like Hillary Clinton in all different ways. It's called Geriatric Care One, and it's a YouTube channel. It's voluminous. I have a lot of YouTubes in there, and it's from soup to nuts, from how to do all the assessments, how to work with dysfunctional families, all the things that I talk about, how to start a business, et cetera, et
Yeah,
cetera. And
ton of
just
stuff
Google
in there.
Geriatric Care One.
Yeah. Okay, we have a couple of questions coming in, rolling in here.
Come
Uh,
on.
yeah, we've got them going now. Okay, let's start off with Claire's question. She's asking, using Adobe Sign and Send, does the customer need any special software on their end to use that particular software?
Um, they do, but usually, I do this usually for webinars, and almost everybody, you know, is able to, use Adobe. So I don't think Adobe's not that expensive. And if worse comes to worse, I would rather use Adobe, but what you can do, I will have people just scan it and send it to me, and then send me the hard copy. But the scan is legal. So, that's another way to do it. But Adobe, it's a really great program. Of course, you have to have the pre-made contracts. So you want to, have a contract for each of the services. And that's another thing I have in the manual. I have a suggested contract for every product that we have. Now, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not going to, I always tell you, don't use these contracts, but you can take them to your attorney to show them, and they'll have their own 2 cents about it. But you always need a contract.
Okay, I hope that answers Claire's question there. Well, let's see who else. Oh yeah, we got some questions now. Okay, Ellen is asking, do you recommend accepting credit cards for monthly fees? And would you suggest PayPal or a different platform for this?
As far as, yes, absolutely on the credit cards. I know a lot of people don't like to do it because it's a little bit more expensive, but boy, it's a lot easier because you can just bill the person every month. And you're not, just waiting for your cash flow to come in. Because again, cash is king. Literally, you know, you've got to pay your staff and yourself every 2 weeks, and usually you're the last person to get paid. But the money often doesn't come in for 6 weeks. And with a credit card, you can just bill it right away, and the cash comes in. So I highly suggest it because I've really learned a lot about cash flow, and it's critical. So it really helps your
Yeah.
cash flow. And even if you're paying a little bit more for the credit card, I think it's absolutely worth it. Um, and what was the second question?
The second question is, would you suggest PayPal or a different platform for
Anything
this?
like PayPal. I mean, if Apple Money, I don't know whether that does that, but maybe it does. You're gonna, pay a little bit for PayPal as well. I've used it for years, and it's just instant, and it's reliable, but it's great at tax season too. Everything is there for you. But if you find another piece of software that does that, sure, go ahead. But you just want to get it instantly. You don't want to wait for the
Yeah,
contract
yeah.
at all.
That's like a micro piece of the overall cash flow process. It's that
Oh yeah.
instant because cash flow. I'm jumping in here, Kathy. I'm sorry, but cash flow to
No,
me is
that's
like
your job. I already told them you were my partner. Come on.
cash flow is an overall process from start to end with a particular thing, event, person, something like that. Whereas this part of it is a more narrowed and focused part, which actually, from the point that they actually received the bill to their willing and wanting to pay you, that process, if they send it in the mail, that's going to be delayed by 5 days,
Oh,
right? But still, the process happens. But with this PayPal and this instantaneous thing, you have cash right there to use, not
Right.
anticipated cash or cash coming in, which is still cash flow in the overall picture, but you have it more instantaneously, right, for your use. And that's, as you said, that's what you need. You need money for your use, not money waiting to come in, not money coming in, something like that. That will, and you can apply it when you get it, but you need it now.
Right. And the other thing about it is that it's a way to tell the client, that this is going to cost you money. It's a real
Yeah,
message about this is a private,
it's a business.
for pay product, and that secondly, you cover your deposit. Your deposit covers your first month. So if you have, the worst month to work with is the first month that you get the case because it's the messiest. You'll spend the most hours cleaning up those problems. So it's a very large bill usually, and you don't want at the end when you don't have a deposit to get stiffed. So it's a way of covering your losses if you're going to have the losses, because I mean, wouldn't you agree, Keith?
Yeah, and it's, you and I have talked for
Yeah,
years
we have a
about
different.
our approaches and different, right, we have different ways of doing things. And I haven't felt the need to ask for a deposit in advance. Not to say that I haven't, been stiffed before, but it hasn't, and I don't know why I don't. There's nothing ethical, legal, or anything asking, at least to my knowledge, for doing that. I
Yeah,
guess it's just
there isn't.
it's just who I am. It's just
Yeah,
uh, the way I do business. Maybe not the smart way, which is which is why you shouldn't be asking me about these questions.
right. Well,
Um,
especially if you do home care. If you do care management and home care, you got to get a
yeah,
deposit
yeah,
because, I
that's a
mean, paying home
different
care is a
story.
huge bill.
Yeah,
That's why only your 10% can afford it. And so, you have a big payroll to make. And
yeah,
and I think
yeah.
it's just, it's a good way to teach them that they need to pay their bills, and it's a good way to cover your butt, really.
Okay, let's move on to, we have quite a few more questions here.
Yeah, good.
Catherine. Yeah, oh yeah. Catherine wants to know, she says that I find it most difficult to close a sale with the client, him or herself. Do you have any recommendations to overcome their objections regarding cost?
What I always say is, what I mean for, what do you pay
Closing
for a
it.
plumber? I
Yeah.
mean, I've been teaching it for a long time. I mean, literally, care management is a fairly reasonable service. I'm, even in, the two coasts, $130 an hour. Really, what do you pay a plumber? And you absolutely need a plumber, a carpenter to come in and fix walls that might have fallen down. And so, I always, try to start out there to give them a reality base. And the other thing is that what I always suggest, and it's in the book, is giving them a budget ahead of time so that they know what they're paying for. And so you can just refer to the book in creating a budget, but just a budget that really talks about the average billing in the first month. I just talked about that. It's going to be more expensive, but usually by the second month you get it down to you know a, a reasonable amount of money. And you're going to have flares because older people have crises after that, but and then just going through each service, telephone calls, I mean, so that it's honesty in contracting, really. You're telling them exactly what you're going to bill for, and explain that that you can discuss it in the very beginning. Very few people ever do that in business, but you can do that, and that builds trust. It really does. So that would be a suggestion that I would have.
I've also modified my contracts. Clients have asked me, Keith, we're working with a limited amount of money. Can we set a limit of $3,000? And then when we reach the $2,500 mark, we can sit down again, reevaluate where we are, and if we
Good
want to
idea.
continue or not. And so I would agree to that. I'd say, okay, let's see how far we can get at that point. Let's see where we are, because you're facing the unknown as a new care manager involved with in a relationship with a new client. You're not sure exactly how fast it's going to go, where it's going to go. So I've agreed to doing that as well. If they want, I never would set a limit, but if they feel like they want to set a limit, I say, and for the most part, they would agree to continue on because they can see the money that that the things that we've saved. Not even money. Let's forget about putting dollars and cents on the table. Let's talk about just being able to feel better about their loved one that's being taken care of. You could put whatever price you want on that, but that's, we're not talking about hard cash and hard things, but those are the things that you convey when you do these things, when you close a sale. Those are the things that you want to convey, and not necessarily all the time about saving money. But if you want an example, ask somebody that questions how much you charge for something. Say, listen, I'll tell you what, I'll do your advanced directives, I'll do your living will, I'll do your healthcare surrogate, I'll do your healthcare proxy. And I said, I'll charge you this price. Take this to your lawyer and ask them what they're going to charge you for the same thing.
Right.
And you tell me how much money I'm going to save you for those 3 documents. And I'll do it at your convenience. I'll come to your home and do it on top of it while I
Right.
have you fix me a cup of tea and see how you're doing with your ADLs. So there's a lot of things you can I think approach and do, but I think as much as saving money, I think it's just conveying the fact that through the hard times and the good times, you have a care manager that's going to be there for you, for them.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think also, well, yeah, I think that's a really good answer. We probably should go on, but yeah, and any of these questions, you're welcome to get in touch with me and I'll answer as best I can. I'm pretty much always available. I mean, don't call me out of the blue, 'cause,
She's on
I'm
the
not
West
always
Coast,
that
so that's what.
available, but if you email me, I'll get back
Yeah,
to you.
call her at 10 o'clock in the morning Eastern time and
Don't do
see
that.
what kind of answer you get. Let's go on
Okay.
to some more questions here, Kathy. We're running short on time here. I want to make
Yeah.
sure we get them all in. Okay, Cha is asking if you'll offer this again. I guess this course, this webinar. I know you do different ones, so I'm assuming she's talking about this one. Will you offer this again?
I probably will, but what's going to happen is Keith will send you the recording of the webinar. Each one of you are going to get a recording of the webinar because it's self-recording now, and at that point, hopefully you're going to get it tomorrow. Sometimes, it comes out the next day, but you'll get a recording of the webinar, and then I always put, or I don't, my webmaster puts the webinar on the Geriatric Care One YouTube channel. So you can see
Yeah,
it.
let me clarify too. I'm not the one that's sending the recording. It's her IT guy that's sending it, not me. I
Yeah,
don't have your email addresses, so I just want
right.
to
But the
make that
three of us
perfectly
work
clear.
together, and then the IT
Yeah,
guy will send it
well, we
out.
do work together. That's correct. Yes, I'll send it to
We're a
him as a
team.
backup. I'll send him a copy.
So I
Um,
should have said that in the beginning. Don't worry, you're going to get, even somebody that missed the webinar is going to be able to get this. And it will
right.
be on my YouTube channel so you can see it, and you can see the benefits and the features one. And, really that's a good one if you didn't know attend, because I've just talked about benefits,
Yeah.
features being key to closing the sale.
And I'm looking at your handbook right here, and I think you covered about 2 chapters already just just today, in this 1 hour here. You went through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. Beth, my good friend Beth is here. She's asking, you can fill and sign things in Adobe in the free version. So I guess in the free version that they offer, is that good enough for doing these types of things that you're
Sure.
talking about? It
Sure.
is. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Good.
Just
All
have,
right.
have an attorney do a good contract for you.
There
It's
you
good
go.
if your attorney's really good. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Good attorney. Now, Kat is asking, do you need to have a special training or education to become a geriatric care manager? Okay,
Uh,
looks like a 2-part question here. So, or maybe there. Okay, so let me finish then. She goes on to say, I'm an RN with mostly hospital experience. I recently opened my home care agency. So the question is, do you need to have special training or education to become a geriatric care manager? Great question.
It's a great question, and of course, Keith could be answering in this too. You you do. There's several domains that you know, if you have the handbook of geriatric care management, it goes through all the domains, or you could just get in touch with the ALCA people. They, you know, on their website they have all the domains, and you need to be well versed in them. And Keith probably teaches in the only online master's program at the University of Florida where you can actually get that information. There's a number of geriatric care management classes throughout the United States. I know for nursing, the University of Utah has, I think, a master's in it. But a lot of people have, you know, had experience because you're already an RN. You have a lot of experience, and I offer, you know, the class that I just talked about, and I'm about to offer a business class as well. And you can take those. You know, there used to be masters at the University of San Francisco State, but California outlawed all the all the geriatric care management when in 2008 when the giant crash up happened and it was taken away. The training is taking webinars like you are now, and getting enough information to pass the certification in ALCA. And there are several certifications you can take. The ANA has one. So you can get certified through the ANA if any of you are nurses. And NASW has a certification that's accepted by ALCA, so that you have enough information to be able to pass that certification test. It's not a license. There's no licensing of geriatric care managers throughout the United States. But what I would say is, since the handbook is the only book, get the handbook. And, you know, it's pretty comprehensive. And take webinars through ALCA and webinars through me, and look into Keith. Well, Keith can talk about that. There's a certification program through the University of Florida too.
Yeah, in conjunction with what is it called? The ICCH, the International Care. It's another
Yeah.
certification body that does. But I do want to also address, if I may just take a minute here to address the issue about, do you need any special training or education? I would say no, but I would also say that you would want to look at yourself and see. Remember, care management is a holistic approach. You want to, so we look into areas that are uncomfortable for us. We delve into areas that we're unfamiliar with, because how many of us know everything about life? So there's going to be areas that an RN may not know about, legal things, communication with families. That's a difficult thing to be not even to be good at, just to be able to do, sometimes effective at, maybe is a better word. So there's areas that, even though we're really, really good, or the best nurses, the best therapists, with the best psychologists, there are areas that you're not going to know as much about because of the holistic approach, the things that we do look at. So I would imagine that there are areas that, and I'm speaking for myself, that I look into. Because I teach these classes at the University of Florida, I'm getting continuing education by all these new people who come into every one of these new classes, coming from all these different professions. So I'm gonna ongoing continuing education for myself, and it's up to date because we're talking about real things, you know, up to date things. So special education, I would say no to that question, but again, look at yourself and see where maybe your areas of greater need may lie. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
Okay. Any
All
other
right.
questions?
Yeah, and Cha is asking again here. My boss owner needs experience this webinar. Okay, is that possible? Can somebody else? Cha Thompson is asking if somebody can. Yeah, I guess they can get right next time you offer it, to send them an email. I don't know.
Oh yeah, the next time I offer it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
Okay.
next webinar I'm going to do is basically on assisted living, since that seems to be a real hot topic, and I'll get that out. And the one after that, I'm going to do one that I've done over and over again, which is why you need to bill 85%. Which is, one of the things I rant and rave about. And, I'm generally going to do one every month, except I'll be traveling in July, so I won't do it then. But if you want, you'll automatically be put in the Constant Contact newsletter, not newsletter, but Constant Contact database. And so, anytime I do a webinar, I'll be sending that out to you. So as long as you signed up for this, you'll get everything, that I'm going to be able to offer.
It sounds like she wants to invite her boss or somebody else. Can she just email you and say, work that out
Sure.
outside of this discussion?
Sure,
Okay, so
and anybody can go to the Geriatric Care One channel and see
look
it.
at all of them. Right.
Not every webinar is there, but most of them are there, and certainly this one is going to be there. So just Geriatric Care One. That's all you have to look for, and you will see me aging.
Yes, there you go. There you are.
Still laughing, but aging.
You'd be like one of those artists that draw people in advance what they look like now, and then 25 years from now what they look like. We could see the real thing. Actually, you're like a time lapse. You're like a whole time lapse thing going on here. All right.
Any other questions?
Yes, there's a couple more. Sorry. Jennifer is asking, can you recommend the most efficient program for time tracking of clients? Efficient program for
I used to use a program called Time Slips when I had a geriatric care management agency. I don't know whether it's around anymore, but it gave you the ability to track your time, and also to be able to take the notes that you had and put it in the billing. It was a great program. But there's just a slew of them out there now.
Yeah, there's a bunch. Yeah.
And I wouldn't, I just off the top of my head, I don't know. I use a couple of them myself, but I can't say, it's for different things. I would, if you belong to ALCA, the listserv is great, and I would just ask the listserv, and you'll get a lot of responses there. So I would, ALCA's a really good organization, and you can get that information there.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good, but there's a ton of them out there. I know CareTree is one. They use like a cloud-based thing where you can, wherever you are, whatever device you're on, you can all constantly update and do things. And there's Joel Code, I think, is another one that probably time tracks client visits and everything from telephone calls to faxes, and you can input all that data. And plus, it does care plans, helps you with care planning. And
iHealth Home is another one, and that's a really good product. And they track time, they do your billing. CareTree does as well, and it's a client database, and it's also a billing database. And most of the time it's going to be built into a client database, and that's probably the most efficient thing to do, is just get a really good client database. And one of those, Joel Code is the oldest. CareTree came after that, and then iHealth Home. And I'd recommend them all. And so what I would do is call them and ask for a free demonstration to all of you, and find out which one really meets all your needs. But time tracking should be in them. And I did a blog a long time ago about all the questions you should ask, about getting a client database. So I could do that again. I do a blog almost every day, not every day, but if you sign up for my blogs on my website, you'll get my advice for the day, and usually it's very practical and good.
Yeah, like drink a glass of wine. That's usually what. No, I'm just making that up. She's not. She doesn't. Let's thank you. Let's move on. We got a couple more still here. I just want to make sure we get to everybody before it gets too late. Thank you,
Okay.
Jennifer. Hopefully that helped. Let's see. Let's see. Rosalind, there we go, says, I'm saying that correctly, says, hi, Kathy. Rosalind Roker. To clarify, is the online course specifically for the materials in your manual? The online course specifically for the materials in your manual?
It's specifically for the materials in the manual, but also it's for marketing. So basically, it is the materials in the manual, but also there's a whole marketing module that's there, plus marketing is attached to each module. So the manual doesn't have marketing in it, but I'm adding it to the class because in teaching this, I taught the manual for 8 years before I put it into a class because, as I explained, it just got too frustrating for people because they had to drop out because they got too busy. So yes, it is. It is. Well, no, it's not just for what's in the manual. There's a lot more in it. Like, for instance, the benefits. I've been talking about benefits. I gave you a lot of extra stuff that, I'm Methuselah. I've been around forever, and I've accumulated a lot.
Yeah.
So I will, give you the benefits, a lot of extra stuff. Yeah, that I have in there when I teach it. And there's a lot of recommendations that are there for the manual, and you can, just talk to any of the people that recommended it. They'll tell you their experience with me. Easy to work with. So
All
yeah,
right.
it's not that.
And let me just wrap Rosalind's statement up here by saying that she took the course GCM training through UF. Excellent, thank you, Rosalind. But never started a business. However, she is ready to start. I
Go, go,
believe she
go.
went to school, yeah, so she's ready to start a business. So I just want everybody to welcome her and get her started, and whatever we can do to help.
Yeah.
You're off to a great start. You're here, so you've already like 10 steps. If you ever played Candyland, that board game, so you're already down the licorice chute or whatever that is into the lollipop field. Remember that? Okay, so excellent. Thank you. Let's see here. We have still a few more. I apologize for going on here. So. The next one here looks like Ellen is saying, do you recommend or asking, do you recommend accepting credit cards for monthly fees? And
Oh,
would you
yes.
suggest PayPal or a different or did I already ask that? Did we already talk? Yeah, we already did. Okay, sorry, I'm
Yeah,
going back in time.
absolutely.
Okay, excuse me. Well,
Absolutely.
I knew I saw another one from Ellen. Excuse me. Right, you said Ellen is again asking. I knew I saw her name again here. When the elderly client has not been determined incapacitated, so they still have capacity, do you have the elderly client sign the contract or just a caregiver responsible party?
It has to be the client. They still have capacity.
Sure.
I will tell you a really fast story about this that is in the book. But I had this client and I did my agency did a full geriatric assessment, nurses, social workers, etc. And after, we dealt with the trust department, the niece, the elder law attorney who was fabulous, everybody thought we were getting the straight skinny. At the end of it, we found out that she was drinking through a G tube. And everybody's horrified, and they found out the hairdresser was bringing it in. So we immediately, went into action and said the hairdresser couldn't come anymore. And how this relates to your question is we then went to the elder law attorney and said, and we didn't know this. And he said, Kathy, she has capacity. If she wants to drink through her G tube, she has the right to do it. So that story is worth a million words here. Yes, the client should sign.
Yeah, I agree absolutely. That's really not even a question. I don't, in my mind, the client always knows what's going on. The client always signs the contract. You always, that's the way I operate. Now, if the client wants to give copies or do other thing or have me have copies made, no problem, not a problem at all. They have capacity. They can do what they want with it.
But get a
It's
deposit too.
and get the deposit from them. That's exactly so they know what they're paying for. I'll tell you where the real question. The real question should be: What if it's questionable capacity? That's really where where it becomes a more difficult choice then. Or if capacity changes over the course of getting things signed, or an incident happens where, those types of things, then you take a hard look at, sort of where you are with that, and then you got to look at the legal issues and the other advanced directive issues about next in line for those types of things. And
Well, that's one of the real strengths that you have, and I pointed out, is that, once you're in the case, you can
yeah,
manipulate them to go to their doctor and have the doctor do a capacity evaluation. You don't have to say, I think you're losing it. You can, do Jerry
right. You would,
Giblets.
yes, exactly. You would elicit, members of your care team to help you make that
Right.
determination. Come to
Talk to
those
the family.
families, of course, absolutely. That would not be, your own determination. And in the course, folks ask about, should I do a cognitive assessment when a first assessment? Now, you and I think, differ a little bit about this. I say no. I say wait till the situation presents itself. Then use your resources to see, is this a change? Is this something different? Is this an unusual behavior? Or do they do this occasionally and they come back around again? Maybe it's a drinking problem. Maybe it's a medication issue. Maybe it's not enough sleep, whatever. So I absolutely I would use all my care team that I could possibly get together for. I think that is not the way care managers do it. I thought, where you get,
Yeah.
and then use your cognitive assessments as well. Use that as a tool to, if you need to at that point. I think there are behaviors and thinking that are obvious that you wouldn't need to do a cognitive assessment unless you wanted to do it for documentation purposes, maybe at that point, or referral purposes, maybe to go to, I've done MMSEs and MOCAs just to say, listen to a neuropsychologist and say, I've done these, this is my second one now. This is what I'm finding. Will you accept a referral from us, to come in and do further testing? And then usually that helps, to get the foot in the door for the more profound neurology, that type of thing, where you need to step up a little bit more and show some sorry, I'm going on anyway. Sorry, folks, that answers your question. There are no other questions, Kathy.
Yeah, we have
Thank
to
you.
end now. Thank you
Yes, I'm
all
sorry.
so much
Thank
for
you,
doing this.
everybody.
Thank,
Yes.
thank Keith for helping me here. And as I said, the next webinar will be next month, and I'll let everybody know about that. And it's going to be on assisted living. So thank you and have a great night.
All right. Good night, everybody.